Hey recliners, I am so excited to be talking about this movie today. There's been so much controversy. Some people have been saying it's trash, some people have been saying it's amazing. I think it's time to talk about it. I saw a post that says something along the lines of, it's a slap in the face to DC fans, to Lady Gaga fans, to all these fans. Let me help you. DC is not that great. So this wasn't a slap in the face to DC fans. Also, the first movie was nothing like we've ever seen in DC. So what made you think that the sequel was going to be anything like what we've seen in DC? The other issue with you DC people is that y'all are very impatient. You all don't let people build up to something great. You expected that because this was a Joker movie that we were going to see a sociopath you thought this was going to be Heath Ledger. That's not what this is about. You thought that we were going to get the Dark Knight. You thought that's what this was going to be. You thought it was just going to be a show completely dedicated to him, a movie, and we were just going to see all of these heinous crimes and all of this suspense and all of these thrillers and all of these things, and that was not the goal. And so if you watch this with the expectation that Joaquin was going to be Heath Ledger, you did yourself a disservice. We can start there. Number two, if you are a Lady Gaga fan, you're a Lady Gaga fan. You are not a Lady Gaga fan if you want to box her into one sound. She should have the freedom to be Stephanie. She should have the freedom to become whatever the role requires her to be. And you still support her if you're a real fan. I don't understand. It's like you wanted her, because she's the original Harley Quinn, like we know she's the perfect person to play a Harley Quinn. But we have not arrived at Harley Quinn yet. We right now are at Lee Quinzel. She hasn't even gotten into the nutbag stuff for real. Like the real nutbag stuff of Harley Quinn. This is the origin story. What part of origin story do y'all not understand? I don't understand what y'all don't understand about origin stories. I think she did an amazing job at showing just how much her mind started to go, like over a period of time. I think it stretched her beautifully. I think musically, she followed what the show wanted her to be. It was a different kind of sound that I know stretched her, and I'm very grateful that she gave me something different. All it does is show her range. All it does is show just how amazing of an artist she is. And I will say this. Lady Gaga said this, and y'all told her she was wrong. Lady Gaga told you all, this is not a musical. And I watched it, and you know what I realized? She was right. This is not a musical. A musical is when we are telling the story of the actual scenes via song and a little dance. What was happening is because of his connection to music, they were using music to explain what was happening in his head. Because again, this entire thing is built on the back of escapism as a traumatic response. It's a defense mechanism. When you're abused, and it happens a lot and for adults too, but as a child, when you are a child who is experiencing abuse, your brain is trying to do whatever it takes to stop you from experiencing harm. So oftentimes what kids do, they transition into another world. It reminds me of like Moon Knight and Marvel. Like if I have an Indiana Jones poster on my wall and I hear my father trying to kick my door down so that he can beat me up after he just beat my mother up, I am going to escape into a world where I think that I am Indiana Jones. So while my father is beating the crap out of me, it's okay, because what's happening in my head is I'm in a scene in the Indiana Jones movie. I'm Indiana Jones' apprentice. It's okay. We're swinging from ropes. We're on horses. We're doing all of these things. We're finding the treasure. Whatever I have to do to take my mind off of my reality. That's what was happening. So what they were showing us, where they were using his love for music to convey what was happening in his mind in moments where he wanted to escape. It was not a musical. And because you went into it already judging it with irritation that it was a musical, when it wasn't a musical, you already annoyed. Which is why you were unable to appreciate what they were trying to convey via song. Which is why you also went into it being disappointed by the sound produced by Lady Gaga in this, that is so different than anything she's ever done before. And I'm very grateful to her for being willing to stretch herself that way. I think she had a stellar performance. I think it was absolutely amazing. Bravo. One of the things that I loved most about this is I think that society has desensitized us or even romanticized jail. It is not a pretty place. It is not fun. There is not all of these varying activities in the day-to-day that make the days go by faster. That's not real. This movie was slow because jail is slow. Every day feels like its own 10 years. So the movie was slow. Was there moments where I was like, ooh, I wish they would get to the point. But it was in those moments that it reminds me of that movie, 3,000 Years of Longing. I was longing for that movie to be over just because I like fast-paced movies. But I have enough objectivity to appreciate the slow pace of a movie called 3,000 Years of Longing. So I applied that same appreciation to a movie that's trying to convey the ebbs and flows of jail. I absolutely loved the performance by the correctional officers, because I know correctional officers. I know people who have been former correctional officers. I know parole officers. I know a lot of people in the criminal justice system, from lawyers to just everybody. Jail is a tough place, not just for the inmates, for the psyche of the correctional officers. There is a person that I have to become in an effort to create and maintain a power dynamic in a jail, not just for my safety, but the safety of everybody that is in this jail, this prison. I have to. Because we have not communicated, taught, discovered another way for a correctional officer to be in an effort to maintain the power dynamic of people who have no respect for authority, who have no respect for rules. How do I do that? Which means that if I have to become this, I have to forfeit the parts of me that are this. So this is why you see so many moments where like they're compassionate, he's singing. It's like you see, oh, okay, thanks, Jackie. You really did that for me, even though you really did it for you, but you still did that for me. That's so nice of you. And then boom, slap on the head. Like it's all of these, because hey, don't think that we're friends. Like, let me remind you that there's still a power dynamic. I love that, because it's actually what correctional officers go through. I also love that if we are not careful, we got to see the dangers of those kind of power dynamics that have to be created out of fear. So this is a lesson to all leaders. If you use your authority or maintain your authority with the people who you are responsible for in a way that inflicts fear, in a way that inflicts pain, whether emotional, verbal, or actual physical pain to your employees or your team or whoever you are responsible for, you are not a real leader and you are not a good leader. And what happens, the dangers of illegitimate authority or power, or abused power, because technically in that role you have the authority to maintain the power dynamic, but when you abuse that, you start to equate the disrespect that you already knew was going to come with this job with it, them disrespecting you instead of them disrespecting what you represent, which is authority. And I think the other challenge with that is what happens when you do get disrespected and you become overwhelmed because everything about you and all these things are connected to what you do, and all you equate yourself to is what you do. You have a situation where you end up strangling an inmate to remind them of the power dynamic, but now they're dead. This is another issue that we have with like police brutality. It's like you went too far. You hear the other people in the background like, Jackie, that's enough, Jackie, that's enough. But no one physically was stopping Jackie from actually killing the inmate. This is a problem that we're facing. So I feel like they covered that as well in this. How are y'all not seeing that this film was amazing? On the contrary, I loved Jacob Laughlin's character. That's like the inmate who is like really quiet, really to themselves, but then starts to emerge, the one that Jackie ends up like strangling, right? He's in this shell. This is why what happens when the right person breaks you out of your shell, or the wrong person breaks you out of your shell, or even better, when you, regardless of whether a good or a bad person broke you out of your shell, when you get out, and because this is new territory, you are essentially picking up whatever behavior is available to you. So if it was a negative person who broke you out of your shell, you are going to break into more negativity. You are going to break into chaos. You're going to break into being disruptive. So it's like he went from being somebody who followed the rules to being somebody who's standing on the table, or when the Saints is marching in, to being the person who anytime like Arthur needs support, he computes supporting Arthur as causing disruptions and chaos in the prison, which is ultimately leads to his demise. So they also tackle the challenges of what it's like to be influenced by the wrong people, what it's like to be influenced by the wrong environment. There's so many different things wrapped into that character of the person that he became, and very quickly ended when Jackie strangled him and he literally died, which was so unfortunate. But that happens to people every day. If when you emerge from your shell, you are not emerging as your authentic self, you are not taking the time to even figure out who that person is, you have no choice but to morph into the closest influence to you. It's like children, when they're born into the world, they have no blueprint. So it's like nature versus nurture. I act just like my father because it's who is around me. I act just like my mother because it's who raised me. It's whose mannerisms I'm around. It's whose language that I hear. Whoever that person is who I'm going to become, until I have enough autonomy to decide, nah, I don't really like those parts of me that do this, and I don't really like those parts of me that do this. If you don't have the right environment to give you the time to arrive at that point, it'll be demise every time. It'll be demise. And so I think it was very unfortunate for his character, but I love that that was another angle that they tackled in the prison that was all built on solidarity, which was crazy. Some other characters in this that I enjoyed Harvey Dent's character. He was like this snooty, self-righteous, I'm better than you that I expect from Harvey Dent. I expected him to 100% be exactly how he was. He just looked the part, the way his hair was slicked, the way he stood in court. I was like, I almost want Arthur to get off just so that you can lose. They did an amazing job casting. Now let's get to that Catherine Keener. Let me tell you something. I don't know a lot of her filmography, but from what I do know of her filmography, I don't trust that lady. I don't trust her. Ever since she was spinning that spoon around that cup and Get Out, and we ended up in The Sunken Place, let me tell you something. I do not trust her. So when I saw that she was his lawyer and he fired her, I said, good for you, Arthur. Because that lady wasn't going to help you. She wasn't going to get you out. Now, she probably was the best thing that would have got him out because her strategies seem to have been working. But hey, I don't trust her. She doesn't have enough film credibility for me to think that her character would ever be a good person. I can't think of other things that she may have been in where she was a good person. But unfortunately for me, I don't trust that lady. It's something in her eyes, like the way that she looks at you. I'm like, there's something devious about your characters. You're not gonna fool me. I also really, really, really enjoyed Zazie Beetz. I personally like her a lot in things. She was in like Deadpool, I think Deadpool 2. She was also in like The Harder They Fall. She was in Atlanta. I just enjoy her as a young actress, period. So it was cool to see her in this, even though it was for a short period of time. I think she was a witness, but she was able to embody so much emotion. I really, really enjoyed her. Let's get to Joaquin. His ability to play an absolute nutcase is superior. Not superb, it's superior. Because not every actor has the ability to go there in a way where I believe you, where it's almost hard for me to believe you're not like that in real life. It's very hard, it's very hard. And it makes me think of, I don't want to spoil this movie for you all because this is a movie, it's in my top 10, it'll be in my next video. It's Blink Twice. But this is a psychological thriller, I would say that. That's clear from the trailer. There's clearly something going on that's not that good. And Channing Tatum is involved. That's straight from the trailer. I'm trying not to spoil it. No matter what happens in that movie, before I even saw it, I had already decided that there was nothing that you all would be able to do in this film to convince me, whether he was or he wasn't, that Channing Tatum would ever be the bad guy in this. Only because I've only ever seen him romanticized. There's Step Up, there's The Vow, even him and Magic Mike. Like, he is someone who is a lover. Even when you see him in videos with Zoe Kravitz, like, he is someone with a big heart. So it's hard for you to try to put him in a role where you're trying to convince me that he may or may not be a bad guy. I don't care whether he is. I don't believe him. So even if he's trying to expand his range, I'm sorry. I believe that you did whatever you did possibly for love. Like, I don't know. So for Joaquin to have the ability to make me believe that he's a nutcase, so much so that, like, I am concerned for his ability to return back to reality, I think that that's a brilliant job. I think he did a great job at conveying rock bottom. And how where you might think rock bottom is actually not rock bottom. Because you would think, by the way the movie starts, which was such a beautiful, I didn't even talk about the comic in the beginning. That was amazing because it was foreshadowing of becoming something that you were not. And so there's this long hallway and there's him putting on his whatever, his outfit, his jail clothes, and having to go out and not having a real care in the world because I've lived, like, this is the life that I expected for myself. Not jail, but just rock bottom. To then experience someone who I think gets me, who is as crazy and wild as I am, who is not threatened by the fact that I'm a nutcase and still loves me. I'm rising from rock bottom. But the challenge is he very quickly learned that he had not yet hit rock bottom. And it was so compelling that what she was able to do for him was kind of give him a reason to live better. It's always like that thought that there's no one that's too far gone, like no one is an actual lost cause. And in this moment, you start to see him believe that he's not a lost cause. You start to see him believe that he can have a clean slate, he can have a fresh start, that he can just experience life absent of his trauma, absent of his past mistakes, absent of the people he's killed. He can start fresh. And she robs him of that because of her own fantasy. Like when he said, hey, stop singing for a second, just talk to me. Because he wanted his fantasy, his escape place, to be his reality, which he believed was possible. And she was like, no, I'm only in it for the fantasy. And so if you aren't willing to commit to the fantasy, then there's nothing for you and I. And it was at that moment that he hit rock bottom. Everything that happened after that was him rock bottom, which was so sad to me. It was so sad. She was lying to him from the beginning. She was using him from the beginning. Everything was to fulfill her own fantasy. But unfortunately, because no one had ever cared about him the way that she appeared to, he was blinded by that. I loved every song that they sang together. I loved her ability to enter into his world in an effort to build her own world. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. When that bomb went off, I was like, he has a chance to run away. Now we can get to it. But he had just admitted that he's not the Joker. That he never was, that he was fully aware of what he did when he killed those people. It was a bad day that just kept getting worse. It really was. And people go through those kind of days every single day. They may not end up at pulling the trigger and killing someone or stabbing someone or harming someone, but people have bad days that just don't seem to get better. And that is reality. It was so unfortunate. It literally broke my heart for him, even though it kind of, it's like, how do you feel bad for someone like the Joker? But I could understand how he got to where he was. It was the perfect origin story. I think even the evolution throughout the film of like Lee Quinzel slowly becoming Harley Quinn. Like you see her starting her sweater, and then she, by the last end, she does the full makeup and she's in the red and the black and white. Like she's in the full Harley Quinn aesthetic. I loved that. I love that he ended up just taking accountability for everything that's happened in his life. He stopped blaming people. Like in that interview, it was like, are you just gonna keep blaming everybody? He finally was like, there's no one to blame. And let me tell y'all something. When he was in that courtroom and had that accent from the first joke, I said, let me tell you something. This man is amazing. He's very versatile. He's a great actor. The range that he was able to even display in here, like all those times he was in the car like, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, like trying to create a laugh that he feels that would relate to other people. It's like, it was just so good. It was so good. Now let's talk about the ending. I personally love the ending. A lot of people don't like the ending because they're not confident in that DC will take the ending and do what they're supposed to do with it. That doesn't have anything to do with me yet. As of what they have left me with, I love it. I love that we learned that Arthur Fleck was never the real Joker, but that he was the origin story for the real Joker. I think the guy who kills him in the end is the Heath Ledger Joker. So it's like here's this Joker person who is Arthur Fleck, who really isn't the Joker. And because you don't have what it takes to really be the Joker, which is what you saw him like smiling, and then when Arthur says, I'm not the Joker, you see him lose his smile because he too was a part of the fantasy, and then kills him because it's like you couldn't even commit. and then slices his own face and almost like takes on the mantle of being the Joker. I love that, because what they did, you made us invest in 2 movies and made us focus in on characters, and a character that was not the character. Arthur Fleck was never the character. And so now what I'm hoping that DC does is that they move forward and they take this and they build the Joker, the Dark Knight Joker, the Heath Ledger Joker, in the next one with the new guy. And I think that right there is going to be beautiful. I think it is genius to make us invest in Arthur Fleck for 2 movies and he's not the Joker. That the Joker's actual origin story begins with someone else who was pretending to be the Joker. I think that's genius. And so this movie, it was a 9 out of 10. I can't put my finger on why it's not a 10 out of 10 for me. It could be that I need to see if they actually do what I want them to do with the next one. But if I'm just basing it off of this movie, I can't decide what I think is missing for it to have been a 10 out of 10. But I can't give it anything less than a 9 because it really was amazing. One of my favorite scenes in this movie was when she set that piano on fire. Because she said, I want to leave this. I want to leave. He said, I don't want to leave. And she said, okay. You don't have to want to leave, but now I'm going to make it so that you have to leave. So you can keep not wanting to leave, but you gonna leave. I loved that because it was the real Harley Quinn nature. I think we didn't really see, I was concerned that we weren't seeing Harley. But when she did that, I said, okay, we're good. When she broke into his cell, I was like, okay, we're good. The whole, I bought an apartment in your own building for us to have a baby was good. Her walking away from him, her doing the makeup. I felt like we got to see her become Harley, which again, I enjoy. And so I'm excited to see where they go from this. I don't really compare Margot and Lady Gaga just because I feel like they brought 2 different aesthetics to the role. I just do. I don't know where they'll take her role because Harley still has a very like approach to her, and so I think that would push Lady Gaga even further out of her comfort zone if she had to switch to being this like psychotic, happy-go-lucky person. But I'm still willing to give her like a fair chance at the 3rd movie. That is my full, let me check my notes. Yep, that is my full review for this 2nd Joker movie. I'm not even gonna make an attempt to pronounce it. It could be French, it could be Italian, I don't know. I just know it's Joker 2. I think it was great. 9 out of 10. If you haven't seen it and you watched all this far, I've spoiled so much of the movie for you, but I still think that you should go see it. And also, if you have not, go ahead and like, share, subscribe right there at the bottom. If you have anything, any comments, any disputes, any rebuttals to anything that I've said, please put it in the comments. I literally talk about movies all day, every day. Like right before I came down here, I was watching Chaos on Netflix. Like I'm always doing this, so please engage me in the comments. I would love to talk to you about your opinions on it. I again love this movie and I love you guys, and so I will see you in my next review. I think what I'm gonna do next is a review of, no, I'm not going to do a review of my summer movies. I'm going to give you the top 10 list of the best movies I saw this summer. And I think you all are going to be very interested in what I say. And so stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. Any notifications, cut them things on, because we're about to have a lot of fun and finish this year strong.